Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Design Theater. Today we're looking at Otomo, otherwise known as the creator of Akira. Now I've read the first, I think, two or three books of Akira. I loved them. I think they're really good. They're worth checking out. I never finished the actual books, so these scans are not mine. These are scans that I got off a line, but I have purchased the books before. Like I mentioned in the last analysis that I did, I'm eventually going to do like a master class where I go through and I break down a lot of stuff in more detail in order to try to figure out like how to even get more out of these artists. But for right now, what I want to do is I want to take a look at Otomo and just kind of browse through some of the panel page work it is that I've seen, because I'm just really blown away by this guy's work. If you've never seen or read the Akira books, you got to check them out. The art in these books is absolutely insane. Like it's almost it's really an obsessive level of detail. So we're looking at this first panel. We're looking at this first page here, and I mean, what stands out to me is like how long did one of these pages take? Just one of these pages. I mean, this is a skyline view of. I'm guessing it takes place in Tokyo, so this is a skyline view of Tokyo. But I mean, just right off the bat, the amount of detail it is that he put into this. And what's even more insane is that something like this, you could almost imagine if you're a digital artist right now, you could imagine yourself doing something like this by like maybe taking a photo and dropping it in here and just like tracing over it. Let's be honest, a lot of guys, a lot of us do that just to save time, because the reader's only going to look at an image like this for a short period of time, and enough to get the story element and then move on to the next panel. So if you're trying to be efficient with your time, you don't want to spend 20 hours on one panel. But who knows how long it is that he spent on a panel like this? I mean, like he did this traditionally. So that means that he drew each one of these buildings out with pen and ink. And yeah, I mean, it's absolutely incredible. I like the progress of the shots. From this helicopter, we see the outside of the helicopter view, and we see where it is that they are. And then we get a shot of inside the cockpit, and then we see a greater view of the city. Really cool. This is a really good progressive series of illustrations, right? We have the villain, and we have this very stern look, and I'm pretty sure this is the story that's going on here. Is the villain has captured the main characters. He's caught them, and so you see the main villain, and then we see a reaction from the main character, and we see an action panel of the soldiers moving into place. We see another reaction shot, and then we see what it is that he's reacting against, which is the men in military outfits pointing their guns. And so what I notice about this is the psychology of having the main character, or this main villain here, taking up such a large panel versus the hero character over here taking up a much smaller panel. This gives kind of an imposing force, like if we were to make both of these panels the same size, then we would have a different feel. It wouldn't necessarily be wrong, but it would be a different feel than the way that this feels now. This villain character feels very imposing next to this small portrait of our hero. And these two snapshots, it feels very cinematic in the way that he does this. He has the two character shots, and then he has an action shot, a shot with movement. So he has these still shots, and then he has a shot with movement. And then we have another two images that feel like they have movement, because we have a character turning his head. And not only is he turning his head, but we see exactly where he's turning his head at, even though they're not in the same panel. So that's something to consider, right? And then we also have these diagonals used in the way that the panels are set up, right? And then we have the characters here, and we have blasted. We're surrounded, and then we have one of the characters, one of our hero characters that we see right here. I'm guessing this is the hero character that's pulling out this gun right here. We see him reaching for the gun, and then he pulls it out. And on this page, we almost have a cliffhanger, in that we see that he's pulled his gun out, and subconsciously we think to ourselves, well, you know, it's one guy against an army of guys, so clearly he's not going to win. And so there's a psychology there of trying to set you up to want to turn the page by leaving this as kind of a cliffhanger with him pulling out his gun, but we don't actually see what it is that happens after he pulls out this gun. Instead, we just see stop, right? And again, we have these diagonal lines. You know, we have a lot of diagonal lines within the panel themselves that gives it this sense of excitement, of drama. Here we are looking at another panel. This reminds me of the beginning of Metal Gear Solid, or I mean actually the ending of Metal Gear Solid, because there's a similar contraption that you ride down into the depths of the whatever the place, Shadow Moses, later on, and it looks very similar to this right here. Again, we just see this insane amount of detail and a strong understanding of the fundamentals. Now we have this establishing shot where they're standing on the platform, and then we have essentially an acting shot, I guess you could say, here. And actually these panel setup is very similar to the last one. We have a big one over here, then we have a small one, and then we have this one right here, which is a skinny one that kind of shows us some sort of movement in the environment and gives us a sound effect. And then we see what it is that is actually moving, and we see where it is that they're going. So we see the sound effect, we see what's moving, and then we see where it is that they're going. And this is pointing us down towards this empty space down here. Here we have another interesting panel setup. We have this character coming out of the sewers. They're moving the top of the manhole out of the way, and then we get a shot. Each one of these shots gives us another piece of information, right, that we can go off of. So we could say this main one is setting the scene. So it's telling us where it is that we are and what it is the character is doing in what environment. They're moving the manhole. We can see that they are clearly trying to escape somebody or trying to keep hidden, as we see their faces hidden behind this manhole cover, and they're looking out. Then we see them stepping out, crouching around a corner. They notice something, which is actually here in this foreground right here, right? And I guess we can see it up here as well. And then we see and then we see an action shot. And it seems like with these action shots, whenever the character is actually doing something, we get these sound effects. Shumph, puck, right? And then we're closing in on something. You know, we see the character is looking around the corner, but out of the corner of our eye, we see that there's something else here. And then we see that her expression is turning back to where it is that to seeing what we can see, but she's seeing it off camera. She looks, and then we have the action shot of her grabbing it and pulling it off, and then it's revealed to us what it is, which is the bike, the motorcycle. And then we have this last shot coming from the manhole, looking up at her, which is an interesting way to frame the shot because it keeps him from having to put the bike again in another shot, right? And it says his bike's untouched. Kaneda never made it here. Another awesome panel drawing. We see again the setting is set up. We see they're in some sort of a sewer system, which I'm guessing that's going back to the first page I showed. This is something that happens earlier in the story, right? Lots of brilliant line work. I mean, it's just insane to me. All this detail that you see here, all this detail is all done traditionally. It's great stuff. Great stuff. We have another shot, establishing shot. And what's interesting about this establishing shot is that we've got that sound effect there. So it's suggesting that there's something is moving through the environment, but we don't see it right away. Right? And then we see the result of the character stopping the motorcycle. He's coming to a halt, stopping. He's putting his motorcycle to the side, and then he's walking down staircase. He's walking towards the staircase. So there's implied movements between different things, right? So we have this scene of the environment that sets up where it is that it's at, and then we have another scene that shows his foot touching the ground to where it is that he's stopping his motorcycle. He steps off of the motorcycle, and then he's walking down a set of steps. So notice that he's not illustrating the moments in between these. He's picking which ones have the most dramatic effect. Again, like we have this super dramatic illustration of this character here. I mean, all of this was done with traditional pen and ink. It's pretty crazy. All right, let's get through some of these other ones. Again, we have an action shot, and here we have a lot of diagonal lines going on all throughout this. You know, we see in the panels there's a lot of diagonal lines. We see in the line work itself there's a lot of diagonal lines that are pointing this way and pointing that way. They're all pointing towards and away from the character. You know, depending on the way it is that you look at it, you could say either this saved him a lot of time because he didn't necessarily have to do too much with the backgrounds, but it was also a lot of diagonal lines. A lot of diagonal lines. Oops. I did not mean to do that. But I love shots like this because we have this shot of Tetsuya looking over his shoulder and saying, "Huh, suckers." And then we see that the story moment that he's illustrating here is that he's getting snuck up on by somebody else, right? And he's looking over his shoulder thinking that he's gotten away from whoever. But clearly we see there's another character coming into play. And then he looks up, and we get a reaction shot from him. And then, so it's basically we have the story moment, then we have a reaction shot, and then we have a scene that's right before something is about to happen. And then we have a scene right after something happened. Right? So he illustrates the moment before and he illustrates the moment after. And then we have the other moment after, which is when he's coming to a screeching halt here. So again, that goes back to what I was saying about illustrations. Generally, we illustrate the moment that happens right before and right after a dramatic moment. Those are the moments that have the most drama, and they have the most drama because they have the most potentiality of what it is that could happen. If you illustrate the moment right before somebody hits and right after, then the viewer's imagination fills in the details of what it is that actually happened. So let's go ahead and let's get through some of these other images real quick. Really cool. I love it. Again, more horizontal lines. Lots of reactions that tell us the story. And you have these kind of scene setups. I think that might be about it. I think I got one more. Yep, I got this really low res version of the of the iconic Akira photo. Really cool. Really good work. Like I said, if you've never read the Akira books or you've never checked out the art, it's definitely worth checking out. Anyway, as usual, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Drop a comment of any artist it is that you would like for me to cover next. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Take it easy. Bye-bye.